On today's show, we're getting into cutting boards or charcuterie boards and serving ware that you turn the handle for. Plus, you'll get a look at the exterior open-air wood shop. So let's get to work on cutting boards.
The American Woodshop with Scott Phillips is brought to you by
Woodcraft, since 1928, providing traditional and modern woodworking tools and supplies to generations of craftsmen. Woodcraft, helping you make wood work.
Pro Tools, for tool pros. Rikon Tools.
Woodcraft Magazine. Projects, plans, and web links designed to help you make wood work. P.S. Wood, home of Timberwolf Swedish silicon steel bandsaw blades and super sharp scroll saw blades. A bed to sleep on. A table to share meals. A house that feels like a home. The Furniture Bank of Central Ohio, providing furniture to neighbors in need.
This is everything you need to know to make one of the most unusual cutting boards or charcuterie boards going. Just take a compass, lay out a couple circles into a pattern on a nice, heavy, thick piece of hard maple. You can't beat that for cutting boards, and more on the finish later. But you lay in the circles, one on top of the other, and another circle here that will drill out at the drill press. But now let's make this cut over at the bandsaw. So let's just say you've never used a bandsaw before. Here are the key things that you have to do. Get a great silicon steel blade and put on it. And oh, by the way, be sure to read, understand, and follow all the instructions that come with the tools and products you use in your wood shop. Work safely. Safety glasses, always hearing protection. Okay, and the first thing, add good tension to it. So that's the quick release, and I want to make sure it's on top of the tire, and it looks good right there. And everything's good with that. So the next thing is you add plenty of tension to the blade. Take it a little bit higher than the setting on your tension scale, and then back that off when you're through at the end of the day. Don't forget to retension it when you use it again. And now what I'm going to do is lower this guide bearing assembly right here, so it's no more than 1/4 of an inch away from the surface of your material. That's to guard your cut, and that's also to take any of the slack out of the blade. It gives you a better cut. Plan your cuts. So on this hard maple, we're going to make 2 straight cuts here, 2 straight cuts there. Those are called relief cuts. I'll get that done right away and take my time. And then using a 1/2 inch wide, 4-tooth per inch blade, we're going to cut this out on the outside edge of the line and take it over to the drill press from there. Now, this has a brake on it, so I can finish that cut by hitting the brake, and then I can back out of those cuts. On a bandsaw, you don't want to back out of a cut, even a straight one like that, with the machine running, because you can pinch that blade, pull it forward, it pulls it off the tires, hits the metal guard, and you've destroyed the blade. So plan your cuts, make those relief cuts. Then as I complete those circle cuts, the scrap just falls away. So the bandsaw is my favorite tool in my shop. Well, actually, it's a wood lathe, which we'll get to later, but this is definitely a good number 2 to make those cuts. once it's cut out, I'm using a drill press. Let's do this on hard maple. I just love that sound. Look at those shavings. And you want to set on these large diameter bits, you want to set the speed so that you don't get any burning and you get a safe cut. And to that end, look at this. This was clamped with 2 clamps. Love those shavings. And that's secure. And you have a sacrificial board on the bottom so that you don't get any tear out on the back. And now all I need to do is go route these edges around. Let's do that. That's great. Now you want to make sure that handle is at least 1 inch thick right there. That's perfect. And what I'm going to do is use a hold fast, padded, to route the edges using a round over bit that has a pilot bearing on it. And this also has a dust collection hookup that's hooked up to the dust collector on demand. And when I start this, base down, the bit away from the workpiece, and you just make the cuts on all surfaces all the way around. And that is there to stay. So let's do those cuts. Routers are traditionally very dusty tools. So having this shroud, let's see what it does. This palm down to the wood. Now let's turn it off and take a look at that cut. And where's the dust? It's in the dust collector. That's good, right there. So we'll repeat that on the other side, and that eliminates a lot of sanding by routing this first. So just move this around and complete this on both sides. Looking good. This is one handy tool, and it's also used to sharpen wood lathes. You want it at 80 grit, ideally. So if you look at this, why am I sanding this edge? Well, this is the rough cut from the bandsaw, so I'll use a strip sander for that. And then for the top surfaces, I'll use a 5-inch random orbital sander. So I'll just get all that done and make sure it's on dust collection and you wear an N95 dust mask to boot. If you pinch the clip around your nose, it won't steam your glasses. Look at that beautiful grain. And hard maple, it's just impossible to find a better wood for kitchen cutting boards and charcuterie tables or boards. And I'll tell you, look at that grain. And I'm using a mineral oil based finish that has beeswax and vitamin E in it. And it's renewable, so easy to use, totally food safe. And it's not flammable because, let me flip it over to the other side, the back side. There's the front, looks beautiful. Flip it to the back, and see those 2 streaks? That's mineral in hard maple. That's not ambrosia beetle. That's mineral. I can tell by the way that streaks out right there. And you don't want to use soft maple on cutting boards. But this is the back, and watch what happens now. Remember, this is not flammable. And I'm taking my branding iron. It's nice and hot. Getting it located just right on hard maple. Now watch what happens right around it. I'm pressing down. It should start to smoke about 6 seconds in. And I'm keeping straight pressure down. There, just got a puff of smoke. That should do it. How about that? The American Woodshop. Now, there's a good thing going on outside. It's the new open-air American Woodshop studio. Let's go take a look at that. Then we'll come back inside and do some turning. This is fun. You know, in life, sometimes hand tools are the best solution. And when I'm trimming off the ends that overstick 10.5 inches, and I want a flush cut, this Japanese-style razor saw is just the tool for it. That's perfect. No power tool is going to give you that ability to get in that tight. So sometimes hand tools are the best way to go. And I wanted to show you a couple other things here. This is all ready to get the metal roof up and on. And I'm going to do that off camera with a man lift, with a platform, because that's a job for pros. You should have contractors do it. Okay, but I've done this for years. My grandfather did it, Herman Reinke. And this is to Herman. He said, if you're going to build it right. Make sure everything's plumb. And that is absolutely perfect right there. So he would be proud. God rest his soul. And then I will tell you, that is key. A framer square or a contractor square or a speed square, whatever you want to call it, so that you keep all your cuts square when this structure goes up. And last week you saw us lift those up with a hoist. They're all in place now. So I'll get to that. 2 tips for you right now. Tip 1, battery-powered circular saws. That is the thing that did most of the cuts on this job. They've come a long way. Get a good one. And the other thing is, look at this. See this trash can? That's all the scraps from this project. That's it. So plan your lengths when you order your lumber. And oh, by the way, to economize, a lot of this is recycled wood, and you can't beat that. But the metal roofing, I got half price because it's odd lengths. I just overlap the lengths and use a trimmer. And then the final tip on this whole build right here. When you look up here, these are called knee braces right here. Everywhere there's a post, this is called post and frame assembly. They are joined, these knee braces, to the post with these construction fasteners, heavy duty. And when you're using them, make sure you get the socket driver on the head, because you get a better purchase that way than, say, a Phillips. Don't use Phillips drivers on stuff like this. And then what you do is you use an impact driver to sink that all the way home. And I'll get that done. Now, this is ready for the roof. Next week, you'll see it all trimmed out. It's going to be gorgeous. And this is my open-air wood shop. On a budget, 20 by 36, which is a perfect dimension to buy wood so that you don't have waste. After this is done, inside, we're going to do some turning. Look at this. Kitchenware. Now this is a pizza pie or a pie server with a custom SpectraPly handle that's been turned. That will be cut off in a second. You'll see how to do that. But here are the A to Z's on doing that. You take a piece of SpectraPly, different colors, so variety, spice of life. And in the very end, you need a hole that's precisely 17/64 an inch and an eighth deep. That will accept this threaded piece perfectly. If it's just 3/8 of an inch, it's going to be too tight and it will split it out. So this hole, drilled at the drill press using a wooden hand screw clamp to hold it square to the table, and then you drill that hole. Easy to do. But that hole will go on this point of the live ball bearing center. On the other end, we use a drive spur right on center. I have a hole mark for that point to go into like this. And I want to tap this gently. You never do that with the drive spur in the spindle drive right here, because it could really damage the bearings. So Release the headstock. It's good like that. Bring this up, which is called the banjo that holds the tool rest. Advance that, making sure that that's secure. And now without using any fancy chucks or jaws, you're using the drive spur and the live ball bearing center to contain this workpiece, just like that. Bring up the tool rest. You want it so the cutting edge of the tool is right at or slightly above center line, and we're using a roughing gouge here. So we spin that around to a flat spot. That should be perfect. That looks good. You rotate it by hand, the workpiece. That's clear. Locked, locked. The ram is locked. The headstock is in fixed position. We'll turn that on and bring it up to speed. Face shield down, no rings or jewelry, long hair, long sleeves. That would be bad safety-wise. Now watch what I do. I just turn this into pleasing form by using this roughing gouge. And we take that down to a round form. I'm going a little bit faster than 1300 RPM right now. And I know from experience, no two handles are going to be exactly the same, but I just take my time on this. Look at that. Okay, it's magic how the wood just melts away. I want to provide some variety, so I'll sweep that handle down right there. And let's turn that off and take a look at that, because that looks really good right there. So let that come down to speed. And that is the magic of SpectraPly. I love the contrast of the grains. Now, to go a wee bit deeper, what I'm going to use right now is a diamond parting tool, slightly round point on that, and the cutter on that's carbide, and you want that to be right at center line. And if you're having trouble cutting, you can dip it slightly below, it'll give you a better cut. And that's locked in place. Let's see what we can do here. Bring it up to speed, 1300. Watch what happens. This wood just melts away. Staying away from the spurs of that drive spur. That's metal. So I'm undercutting this so that I can part that off with the razor saw at the workbench and finish that off safely. And then I'm looking at this shoulder right here. I need to take that down just a hair more. So this end's done right now. And what I'll do is go back to that roughing gouge. The trick is rub the bevel, then raise the handle until the cutting edge and the bevel, that's at an angle behind the cutting edge, kiss the wood at the same time. And right there, that looks really cool. So, one final little tip, I'll use this tip of the skew to do 3 little beads, or excuse me, little grooves. 1, 2, 3. That's just a decorative element. It always looks good. Nostradamus thought that 3 was the magic number of the universe. So it was good enough for him, it's good enough for me. And let's turn that off. Look at that. Okay, let it come to a stop. And I'll tell you what, we're there. Now put a little sanding action on that, then friction on the same finish that we used on the cutting board, and we'll see how all the parts fit together. Now, a couple tips. When you friction on this food safe finish, never wrap that cloth around your fingers. Keep it open hand because it could get caught into the spinning workpiece and that would be bad. So that comes off. And right here is what you're looking at. And this is the end, obviously. And I'll tell you, the one thing that's tricky about these pieces, see how that threaded part right there threads onto that little bolt? Well, I'll be able to get all these pieces tightened together. See how that seated itself, just like that? And do you hear any cracking? No, that's good, because we did the right size pilot hole. That extra 64th makes all the difference in the world. And then we've got a great union square shoulder, and that's a function of using those wooden hand screw clamps at the drill press table to keep this flat so that hole is square to the base, and that gives you a crisp shoulder. And of course, the best grain is up, and I always plan it that way when I turn it. Pays to be lucky. And then the neat thing about this finish, whenever it gets dull, and you never run these things in a dishwasher, whenever it gets dull, you can just buff some more on. You use a Japanese razor saw, and watch what I do, bracing both these tails. This cuts on a pull stroke, but it's the push stroke that really gets you established in the cut. And look at that cut. Look at how smooth that is. I mean, you don't even have to sand that, for goodness sake. That's so cool. Okay, and I'll cut the other piece off. And variety is the spice of life, as they say. Now, you want to keep your thumb well away from that blade, because seriously, it's razor sharp. So you want a sacrificial board down, because this saw will cut through the wood like a knife. But look at that. And you know what? I quit buying gifts for Christmas a long time ago, because I can make them. And people are fighting over them, whether it's a cutting board, pizza server, or a cheese plane. Now I'll get set back up to turn another piece, and we'll see how this comes together. It needs a bigger shoulder here for this interface. Make it plenty for stout. We'll get to that. Well, let's spice it up. A nice piece of pink and black SpectraPly for that cheese plane. Let's see how long it takes to turn it round. Let it come up to speed. Marry that handle to my body. Now watch what I'm doing. This is called the Underhand Technique. Right here, taking my time. Taking about 1/16 of an inch off at a pass. And basically by pinching this chisel shank like that, you stop the chisel from jamming in by resting your hand against the tool rest. And keep the chisel sharp. And before long, you can just make the wood melt away. And let's see, on all those curves, it starts to give it some character. You can do whatever you want. Don't let anybody tell you, oh, when you turn, you should do this, you should do that. You should do your own thing. Express yourself. That's why I love turning. It's so free. Just beautiful. I'll get this turned down just the same way we did the other piece, and then we'll do the big reveal. So now you know the routine. Look at that. That's just awesome, and it's one of a kind. So I want to be careful with that plane, because that's sharp. And I just work that on like so. And if it was drilled square, you'll get a perfect interface. It looks really good. That's nice and tight. That's good. Now what I'm going to do is cut this off. Being careful. Okay. And look at that. A little bit more on the end. And there we have ourselves a bit of controversy. You go, controversy? What are you talking about? Well, on the set of American Woodshop, I cannot thank Megan and Caitlin enough. So Christmas came early this year. Megan, you've been with me the longest, so you get to choose which one of these 3 items you want. Which one do you want? You have to tell me now.
Pink.
Yeah, she goes with the pink, the cheese plane. I don't blame you. Well, Caitlin, which one of these 2 do you want?
I'll take the not green one.
The not green one. Well, there you have it from the American Woodshop. Now, whatever you do, go make your own gifts. You got it in you. Learn how to turn, take a lesson. The world's your oyster. See you next week in the American Woodshop. Stay busy. God bless.
Woodcraft, since 1928, providing traditional and modern woodworking tools and supplies to generations of craftsmen. Woodcraft, helping you make wood work.
Pro Tools. For tool pros. Rikon Tools.
Woodcraft Magazine. Projects, plans, and web links designed to help you make wood work. P.S. Wood, home of Timberwolf Swedish silicon steel bandsaw blades and super sharp scroll saw blades. A bed to sleep on. A table to share meals. A house that feels like a home. The Furniture Bank of Central Ohio, providing furniture to neighbors in need.
For more information on tips behind the American Woodshop and watch free episodes 24/7, check us out online and like us on Facebook.